Pegwarmers. I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian.
I'm Greg.
And we're here to talk about toys and eat hot wings. Brian and Greg are here today. These guys are buddies of mine from like high school. Brian I've known my entire life. Greg moved in high school. Brian appears on some of the Patreon cartoon commentaries with me. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks. Hi.
So we're doing a 1-year anniversary special episode. It's sort of like a Q&A, but we're going to do the Hot Ones challenge from the YouTube show Hot Ones. I'm sure most of you guys are familiar with it. It's a very popular show. So we've got the sauces from a couple seasons ago here and our gauntlet of wings. And the guys have a list of questions that were sent in by various friends of the show, people from other channels and Twitter and things like that. And we'll they'll kind of grill me a little bit, and they can chime in on anything. Is there anything you guys want to, I don't know, let the viewers know about yourselves at all before we get started real quick?
I'm anticipating that I'm going to be dripping by the end of this, so that'll be great.
I'm curious to try it. Yeah, I like hot sauces and wings, so.
All right, so the first sauce, do one of you guys want to be sort of in charge of saying which sauce we're on? This is the first one here.
Oh, that's awkward. So this is the classic hot sauce, Garlic Fresno Edition by Heatonist.
This is one of the Hot Ones.
It's always on the show,
sites.
yeah.
But
All right.
All right, we ready?
Doesn't really give you any kind of indication about heat level.
it's kind of Tabasco.
They call it the #1 sauce on Hot Ones.
There you go. Start over here on the left. Yeah.
I hope everyone at home is enjoying all the great mouth sounds. This is pretty good.
It's basic.
Not very hot. Yeah.
Very traditional hot sauce.
So, Kev, Chris from Comic Tropes asks, as I spit, you're assigned by NASA to meet an alien culture who doesn't understand the word play. You can take 3 examples of toys to show them. What do you bring?
Wow. So I'd have to pick something that had a fun play feature, I think. So maybe something from the original Masters of the Universe line, like trying to think of who does something really neat, like Mosquitor, who has the blood pumping feature, or even just the original He-Man, because all those guys have like a power punch when you twist their arms, they swing back. So something like that would be fun to show them. You'd have to take something that has wheels, because like wheel play is a pretty common play pattern. And then maybe something kind of classic, like a ping pong paddle and a ball or something like that, where it's like a skill kind of thing.
Or like a sport.
I was thinking Lego made the most sense because it was at least a construction and you can like make something.
Yeah. Lego would be another great one, yeah.
Or some kind of game, maybe.
That'd be good too. All right. Sauce number 2.
The fancy bottle. This is Yellowbird sauce, bliss and vinegar, ripe red serranos, strawberries, and coconut. That should be interesting.
All right, so this one's going to be, should have a little bit more of a unique flavor to it.
Definitely tropical sort of flavors.
It's like brown sugar in it too, I think. Something sweet.
Still not too bad on the hot level there.
Yeah, not too bad. I was still feeling the first one though. So
Yeah, there's a little something there. I know that even if the sauces didn't get hotter, just from eating a whole bunch in a row, it's gonna get worse.
All right, so question number 2 we have is, all of your toys become real and attack you. You can select 5 to defend yourself. Who do you choose?
5 to defend myself against all the rest of my toys. Wow, that's another kind of crazy one. I think I'd have to go with something that's large for at least one of them. Like the Rancor from Kenner Star Wars or something. Big monster. He could probably knock out a lot of them. I'll go kind of like a cheesy answer and pick like Snake Eyes, because he's normally awesome, so his toy should be a good fighter. How many am I picking? 5?
Yeah, it says 5.
Okay, so the Rancor and Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes riding on a Rancor. Let's see. What shoots a bunch of projectiles?
Yeah, maybe something with laser weapons. Or...
Yeah, well, I'm assuming they don't have, like, their superpowers. It's just toy...
If it turns real, it's got to be...
Oh, well, that's true. I was thinking, like, Toy Story fighting. Like, you know, where they just start fighting each other as toys. There's got to be something with a good spring-loaded missile. Like the 90s, I'll pick a 90s G.I. Joe that has the spring-loaded missile launcher. Who's a good one for that? I guess Duke. There's a Duke version 3, and he has he rides a missile launcher. Basically, it looks like a lawn chair seat on top of a missile launcher. We'll go with him. He can shoot down a few of the guys. We'll take He-Man because you gotta have somebody strong. I keep going back to the Masters of the Universe brand here, and maybe like the Megazord from Power Rangers. We'll get that in there.
It's kind of a cheat.
Yeah, well, you know, it's still a toy.
I mean, I would have expected you to pick the aircraft carrier, because if it's real, that thing has all kinds of things that can shoot. Well, sort of.
Yeah, but it's kind of a sitting duck.
That's true.
So unless I can like hide behind it, it might not help me that much. I don't
know. So number 3.
Sauce number 3.
All right. This is Hoff's House Sauce. Your everyday hot sauce.
All right.
Established 2015.
So this is another sort of classic type sauce. I like this one actually quite a bit.
Got a little sort of a smokiness or something.
So if you get recruited by G.I. Joe, what is your code name and skill set?
Well, I probably, since I'm pretty good at identifying their accessories, I'd probably work in the armory, help hand out the weapons to all the guys. So a code name related to that. Weapon wielder or something stupid like that. They always have goofy code names. I don't know. That's the first thing that popped into my head.
Not Buzzchuck.
As a collector. Yeah, Buzzchuck would be a good one if I was going with, like, silly nicknames and code names from childhood. And that actually has a G.I. Joe connection. It came from Buzz and Chuck Dixon getting confused at comic conventions. Buzz Dixon was a story consultant and writer on a lot of the G.I. Joe stuff, and then Chuck Dixon was famous for doing Batman stuff.
Oh, that one was spicier.
Yeah.
We should probably mention that when we were getting these wings ready, Brian microwaved them in some way that it spread the entire kitchen with hot sauce pepper, and we were already a little drippy before we started. So
yeah, it is very hot today. Then we're in here under the studio lights. We sort of like pepper sprayed ourselves in the kitchen.
Just a little bit.
So we're in good shape here. Yeah. All right, so this is the 4th.
Number 4 is a green sauce. Los Calientes.
This one's on the show a lot.
Yep.
Yeah. That's also by Heatonist.
Yeah.
That's
the company that does the show, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That's got a nice pepper flavor. Green pepper.
Yeah, it's a little less of a strong flavor. You know, it's a little more subtle.
Yeah.
Yep, we're all getting there. I'm trying to wipe my fingers really good too. I'm not.
Okay, if you could revitalize one 80s toy line with modern toy tech, what would you pick?
I think the toy line that I kind of want to see come back the most that There's a couple of options I could go to, and my first thought was to go to Cops and Crooks, which was a Hasbro toy line. But really, Dino Riders, I think, is the toy line that needs to be revitalized the
I
most.
love Dino Rider so much.
It's such a good concept and such a cool line. I think those toys being a little bit more rugged would be helpful. And I think that there's just so much more they can do now with, like, there's better battery tech. So, like, a lot of those walking ones, they could animate them so much better. Because the toys just have so much more articulation and animatronic stuff built into them these days. So I think that's the line. I was thinking Cops because that's a line I'd like to see come back, but Dino Riders I think would benefit from the modern tech more.
Yeah.
Also, Mask.
Yes.
Dino Rider is a Mask.
Mask would be phenomenal. I don't know why they're sitting on that.
Do you think they could do more with them, though? What would they add to it? They seemed so well engineered already.
They really were. It's true. I don't know if they would make Mask better necessarily.
Mask
but
could be battery powered, though.
yes, they could build in like lights and sounds and stuff like that. That could be kind of interesting. The tough thing with Mask is just it's very expensive to produce. Lots of springs and mechanisms and gears, and then the assembly factor for that kind of keeps it from coming back. Hasbro did test the waters a little bit. They've made a couple of Matt Tracker figures in the G.I. Joe scale. One was a Comic-Con exclusive. One was just part of the G.I. Joe line. Just
Yeah, I think
to
you gave me one of those.
Yeah, I think I did the 25th anniversary one, just to kind of see what kind of buzz they could get out of it. But they haven't made the jump. I think the vehicles are just a little too cost prohibitive.
Have you ever pulled one apart to see how it works?
I mean, I've had a few that were broken over the years that I've kind of messed around with a little bit, trying to get like a piece off of it to put on one that was damaged in a different way. And there's some guys on YouTube that do like repair videos, but it's tough. They're just very tiny. And if you're trying to get a replacement part, you're like trying to find another broken vehicle that has the part you need, and then not lose the spring as you take it apart. Like it's tough.
I mean, I broke a few of them as a kid, and was never able to get them back together in any way that worked.
Yeah.
I have to assume that the Transformers line is just as expensive, if not more, than the Mask line, and they still make the Transformers. So
Transformers have less like mechanisms though. It's like a joint a lot of times, but there's not so many like gears and ratchets and spring type things. So they're, I guess, a little bit easier. Plus, also Transformers just has brand recognition. It's a guaranteed sell because those former movies just kept the brand alive.
They changed them from metal to plastic at some point.
Yeah, they
right?
did get rid of all the die casts, which is making them cheaper to produce also.
well, number what are we on? Number 5 now?
I'm starting to feel it.
Yeah,
for sure.
I
That
felt
last,
that last
one. This is called Hotheads Official. Revolutionary Roasted Bell and Scorpion.
Well, that sounds fun.
Delicious, rebellious, beautiful. Yeah, it's got 4 flames on the heat indicator.
Okay. I can definitely feel the heat like in my mouth. Okay, we're ready for this one?
So that's again more of a traditional hot sauce flavor, though,
I can feel the
but
heat on that
very much hotter. Yeah.
one. Wow. Yeah.
So would you rather be Orko or Kringer, and why?
Would I rather be Orko or Cringer? I think I'd rather be Cringer. Orko is just kind of always a goofball. And Cringer, you know, when they really need help, gets the power sword turned on him and he turns into Battle Cat and he gets to help save the day. So I think I'd go Cringer. Also, I was like,
But Orko has magic powers.
he does, but they always go awry. So I think that would be very frustrating to like try to do something and then have it always turn into like eggs dropping on Man-at-Arm's head.
Yeah, that one was a big step up.
That was definitely a big step up.
Yes.
I'm burning.
Did you guys see the Netflix Kevin Smith He-Man show at all?
No, not yet.
Okay. They gave Orko a pretty big role in that.
I always liked him.
Oh, he's a ton of fun. But if I had to be one of them, yeah, I do like Orko a lot.
Oh, I need that paper towel.
That wing was really hot. We're dying over here. We still have half the slab to go here.
Oh, if they all step up that much, we'll be dying by the end.
All right. Are we ready for the next one, or we need
Sure.
a minute?
That's part of the problem with the show, also though, because it's like moving to the next one, moving to the next one, like keep it going.
I always wonder on the real Hot Ones, how fast do they do it? Because there's so much editing in that show, they could easily wait a long time between wing. Although I think a lot of times those celebrities are on pretty tight schedules and probably need to like get in and get out. But I don't know, they might book a whole day. I'm not sure how they do that.
Well, let's throw in an extra question then. If you were a transformer, what would your alt mode be?
What would my alt mode be? Well, if I did it based on what I drive, I'd be a pickup truck. If I did it based on, I guess my occupation, I'd turn into a tool of some sort. Since like,
or every tool.
Soundwave was, a cassette deck and things like that. Maybe I'd turn into a circular saw. That'd be kind of fun.
Pickup truck that turns into every tool, like a multi-tool.
Yes, has a multi-tool in the bed of the truck.
Yeah,
that would be kind of fun.
I think I would be one of the ones that turns into some kind of an animal, like
the
Dino Bots or like the
Beast Wars.
Beast Wars guys.
How about you, Greg? What would you transform into?
Some kind of insect, actually. It's funny that you said animal.
Insecticons.
Yeah.
I always liked the one build a guy. I don't know.
Yeah, the combiners.
Yeah. One of the early ones had one of the characters was like a shark man thing, like a shark head.
Okay.
And little feet.
I mean, there were the Sharkticons were like piranha type people, which is funny. They look like a piranha, but they had shark in their name. But they weren't part of the Build-A-Figures. But there probably isn't. There was a whole series called Seacons, but I'm not sure.
The central figure was like a two-headed dragon.
Oh yeah.
And then one of the arms or something was like a shark-headed thing.
Gotcha.
I always liked that guy.
I'm not sure which one that is, but I am aware of that combiner. Yeah.
Well, I'm burning, but should we move on?
Yeah.
All right. What's the next sauce there?
Do number 6, Greg.
Was that this one?
Yeah, this one, the one you had first.
I've lost track. I don't know how to read this label. It says adobo black lime ghost peppers. No idea who makes it. Senor Lechuga.
Well, that one sounds wonderful already.
I think that's the one we were
This is the one that
commenting on when we were heating them up.
kind of like I think it's like a mole.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Are we ready?
Yeah.
There we go.
Well, that has my favorite flavor yet.
I can feel that one on my lips.
If you could be any Power Ranger character, which would you choose?
I could be any Power Ranger character. I mean, Tommy's like the coolest. He was the original Green Ranger. When I was a kid, though, I imagined that I was the Brown Ranger. This was before they had the metallic ones, like during the original season of Power Rangers, and they were all colors. Titanus didn't have a ranger. The Brontosaurus, Diplodocus, whatever kind of dinosaur he is, the long neck dinosaur, he didn't have a ranger. He was just like an extra Zord. And I had this like, when I play outside, I would pretend I was this Brown Ranger that was his driver. So if I was doing a fictional one, I'd do that. If I'm going on like childhood cool factor, probably the Green Ranger. But through like the history of Power Rangers, I'm trying to think of who I've really enjoyed later on in shows.
Is it always the same enemy?
No, it changes. So in the first couple seasons, it was Rita, and then her husband Zed, or a guy named Zed came and they got married. And they stayed as background villains for a little while as the villains would change. But it's pretty much new villains every year because they're using, stock footage from Japan. And so the soldiers and the monsters and stuff change with the Ranger costumes. And so they get new powers each time. And sometimes, in modern times, they change out the actors each time, too. Like, they get new characters. In the beginning, they would just kind of roll them, which got awkward because people would leave the show and they'd replace one Ranger halfway through the season. And then the next year, somebody else would leave. And so they just kept doing these rolling replacements, which was a little awkward. I think it was cleaner when it was like, okay, you're on a 2-year contract. We're in.
Is the original Japanese show related at all to what Power Rangers is?
It's very similar. Yeah. It's just that the like the teenagers aren't always like American teens in high school kind of thing. They're often lots of different things. And eventually there were seasons of Power Rangers where like they were police officers or they were mechanics in a post-apocalyptic world, things like that. But yeah, the original season. Well, it's not the original season in Japan, but the original American season came from a show called Zoo Ranger. It's the 12th season of Sentai in Japan. And those Rangers were actually like prehistoric, or not really prehistoric, but like ancient people that worshipped these dinosaur gods that were like frozen in time, and then they were released to like fight Rita, who was really Bandora.
Were they running at the same time? Like
no, so it's always a couple seasons behind. Like the Japanese show is still on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
I'm
like
surprised, or it seems like maybe that the American show would start to influence what they do on the Japanese show. Is that
in some ways, I guess. So like in the beginning, they had the Mighty Morphin costumes, and then they ran out of that footage. And Saban, who ran the show, was worried if he changed the Ranger's costume, it somehow would lose its magic. So he hired the company that made the fights to just make new monsters and film more fights for him. And so those scenes did mirror some things. So like characters that were dating, the Rangers in costume during the fights would help each other out more, or like be worried about the other one when they got hurt more than in the regular footage. And then after that, they kind of moved on to the next season. But the next time when they changed costume, well, they changed the Zords. It got super awkward, like the way they did it. And then eventually they finally just said, okay, we're just going to have to switch everything. And then Power Rangers Zeo came out, new costumes, new bad guys. The fights really got terrible with the Megazords towards the end, because they were using Zords and monsters that didn't necessarily fight each other. So they would only use like attack and reaction shots and never them together, which was really kind of lame.
It seems like a very difficult, just technically, I guess, to take one show and make another show out of it. Especially if you're trying to maintain any kind of consistent.
It is, but they've kind of been doing it for a while with cartoons, like
I mean, like
Voltron and stuff
C-Lab
like that.
and Space Ghost and all that.
There's a lot of people doing that kind of thing. It's tricky a little bit, I think, with the Japanese stuff too, because there's a lot of odd continuity things. Like in Mighty Morphin, sometimes you see like Tokyo in the background, and it's like, how did they get from Angel Grove to Tokyo for this fight? You know, not that kids necessarily know that that's Tokyo, but sometimes there'd be writing, or you would notice all the extras running from the monster are like Asian, and you're like, that's weird. Like in the previous scene, all of them were like clearly American teenagers, and now suddenly it's all Asian people running from the monster. You know, just like little
You're
weird
not supposed
things.
to watch that.
Cartoons, I guess.
Watching the monsters only.
You're not supposed to notice, yeah.
Cartoons seem like they might be easier because if you have access to the cells and things, then a lot of it is just repetitive stuff anyway.
They do so many of the same backgrounds that you can just reuse footage. And they did cheat in Power Rangers with some stuff like that, you know, reusing stuff. But it's definitely a challenge, I'm sure.
And they were able to film American actors doing parts of it.
Yes, they would get the suits and they would get the props and they could shoot extra stuff. With Mighty Morphin, one of the most common times you notice it is for some reason, the Green Ranger's vest, his like shield, didn't come over, and they had to make one. And I noticed it as a kid that sometimes he would have this like foam thing that looked very floppy, and sometimes he had like a really cool looking one. And the cool one is the Japanese footage, and the American one is just not as good. And it would just be cut interspliced like continuity error.
Notice it in the show at all.
Just
look past it.
It's just something you're not supposed to notice. Yeah, it's just a dumb kid show. You know, is how they looked at it as they were producing.
It's from shot to shot, not like.
It's
in
from
one episode it's weird, and one it's not. It's
from shot to shot. So like, Tommy might take his helmet off, and he's got the frumpy looking one, and then there's some cool Japanese footage of him fighting the monster, and he's got the cool looking vest on.
All right, number 7.
Okay.
How you guys doing? Holding up?
Now. It was a little
The
sketchy there for a bit.
heatness went away a little bit.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit, so that helped.
My mouth is still burning, so.
Yeah, I mean, my mouth is burning, but not quite as bad as it had been.
Well, just wait. It only gets worse. Hutilla Fire. Chili Lengua de Fuego. Hot sauce with assorted super hot peppers and bitter orange.
Awesome.
Like burning tongue, is that what that means?
Sure. Kind of looks like a tongue.
Yeah, it does.
All right.
Okay.
trying to eat a decent amount, so I'm not Weird Al taking a little nibble off of these.
No, I've been cleaning my bones.
I'm just trying to get most of the outside.
Yeah.
Okay, that one seems less hot, but
Sometimes there's a delay on these things, though, too.
They kind of make you numb, too. After a while, you just don't notice.
the wings are definitely cold at this point.
Yeah. All right. That one's not.
So-
I thought that one was going to kick my ass, but
If you had to destroy one forever, would you choose Masters of the Universe, G.I. Joe, or Star Wars?
ooh, that is a very tough question. So Star Wars is like my favorite movie franchise. I feel like in the past I have felt like if I had to destroy the media for like a franchise, Star Wars would be the one I'd have to save.
Now, does it mean as if it never existed?
I guess
or
so. Or just my
it did
personal
exist
collection.
and now it's gone?
I don't know.
That's a good question.
I guess you can interpret that and make your own rules. What do you want? How do you want me to phrase this thought?
It would be a lot easier to deal with if it just never existed
Just never existed.
than if you just couldn't collect it and your collection had been destroyed.
But then you have to worry
real sad.
about like time travel paradox
Oh,
issues
yes.
of what did G.I. Joe
And I wouldn't miss
inspire
it.
that now
I wouldn't miss it if it didn't exist ever.
It's true.
So I think I'm just like destroying it. Like I would miss the Star Wars movies a lot, but I feel like I would miss the G.I. Joe toys more. So I definitely wouldn't destroy my G.I. Joe toys. From a childhood perspective, it's pretty terrible to say because I love He-Man, but like as a kid, I sold my He-Man stuff to buy G.I. Joe and Star Wars stuff.
I think
Like,
I think Masters of the Universe for sure has had the least influence on things that came afterwards.
yeah, in some weird way, I guess. I mean, it was a powerhouse brand, and there were a lot of knockoffs, a lot of like wrestling toys that had the same body type and things like that. But once He-Man fell, we got really far from it. Whereas Star Wars, G.I. Joe was an extension of Star Wars. It was like, we want figures this tall so they can fit in the vehicles. We want them to come with accessories. So it sort of kept that pattern. The 3 3/4 inch was like the king scale for a really long time until 6-inch collector toys became the kind of the norm now.
Masters of the Universe was kind of the last of like Conan the Barbarian inspired things, where I think Star Wars and G.I. Joe both were a lot more forward looking.
Yeah, I could see that for sure because they both had. I mean, even Motu has sci-fi elements to it in the original line, and then when they updated it in the '90s, they went all sci-fi, but that like flopped. It just didn't go anywhere. The New Adventures of He-Man. So I feel like He-Man, because I love it currently, and I loved it as a kid, but because I was able to go for a long period of time kind of without it, where I gave it up for all of the 90s, and I never even collected the 2000 line when it was out. I watched the cartoon, but I didn't collect any of the toys. So because I've gone the longest period without that, I would kind of say that. But if I was going by my current collecting habits, Star Wars is what I buy the least of. Because I feel like I have the original trilogy characters in toy form. I'm not really buying the new property stuff as much.
Star Wars is really producing the most content still.
Yes, it is definitely producing the most content. G.I. Joe's producing no content. So if I was doing it based on media and entertainment, G.I. Joe would be the thing to get rid of just because there's nothing coming out. Whereas like the He-Man has 2 Netflix shows going, one for kids and one for adults, and Star Wars has
know that.
all the Disney Plus stuff. So if I was doing it from media, but if I'm doing it from collecting, all 3 of them currently have lines. Star Wars is the one I don't really currently collect as much, so maybe that would be the easiest. This is a bad answer because I just kind of I went through all of them.
Why do you think G.I. Joe has kind of fallen off where the other ones haven't?
G.I. Joe hasn't figured out how to reinvent itself since we got away from patriotism and military toys. Parents don't like guns as much for their kids. If it's lasers and really sci-fi, it's easier for parents to excuse it than when it's actually like, here's a guy with a M16.
And I guess even at the kind of in the tail end in the 90s, they had sort of started to move towards
Outer space stuff.
and like environmental things and drugs and like.
Yeah, they changed the bad guy. And I thought during 9/11 we would see G.I. Joe kind of come back because America was so patriotic for a little while, but really around that time, Walmart like stopped supporting the brand, and Walmart is generally a kind of like a gung ho America company. Like they like the Captain America exclusives and things like that. They like red, white, and blue characters when they have like exclusive products.
Yeah.
So it's a little interesting. I mean, they always support it when there's a toy line, but it has never kind of reclaimed its.
Even like without
glory.
getting too political, like the follow up to 9/11 was divisive.
Oh, for sure. But I feel like in my lifetime since the 80s, that was the time where people were the most like gung-ho, patriotic, like we got to support the troops again kind of thing. It was definitely a divisive time, but as far as like, I feel like most people felt like we had to get the bad guy, you know? So it's weird and it's hard because after 9/11, they stopped using the word terrorist in like the Cobra stuff a lot of times. It impacted a lot of stuff. They stopped, or they started specifying in Power Rangers when a building got destroyed that it was in the like abandoned building section of town because suddenly you couldn't have a skyscraper getting crushed by something. Like, and I get it, I totally get it, but like, there's just weird things like that. Lilo and Stitch, the Disney movie, they had to change a big scene because there was involved an airplane flying past buildings, like dodging buildings, and it was just like, you just can't have anything like that.
And you think about like the body count in like a Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
Insane.
It's crazy. And so they had to become much more conscious about a lot of stuff. It's impacted things, and G.I. Joe just hasn't quite had that hit movie. There's been 3 movies since 9/11, live action movies, and none of them have quite landed right. The first one was popular. The second one, they kind of totally... It was a continuation, but also sort of a reboot. They killed off a bunch of people to shrink the team down because of the smaller budget. And I liked that movie more. I liked the second movie quite a bit, but it just didn't do enough. And then they just did the Snake Eyes movie that bombed. So they just can't quite... If they could get something like the Transformers movies where their box office, worldwide hits, it would help.
Do you think the fans like the Transformers movies?
No, not really. I mean, they liked them in the beginning because they were getting Transformers stuff, and the first one's not terrible, but they've gotten so weird. Then Bumblebee was a good one again. We're gonna do Beast Wars for the next one. They're connecting it to Bumblebee somehow, but I feel like it's a weird jump. Like I felt like they kind of found a good niche, and I felt like they should have done at least a sequel to Bumblebee before kind of shifting gears to another series or another type. The G.I. Joe stuff, I don't know how to fix it, but Snake Eyes wasn't the right fix.
Yeah, it almost seems like you need to get the fans on board. And
That means bring it back to what it was in the 80s. Like redo, but make it not a cartoon necessarily, but like as much like the cartoon as you can make it as a live action, I think.
Yeah, you gotta find that like sweet balance of like the source material and like just believable enough. The way Marvel does it. Like they put the people in the goofy costume so we go, hey, it's like the comic. But then Thor takes his helmet off so he's not wearing the dumb helmet the whole time. You got to find that balance. But like the first
G.I. Joe movie, the original animated G.I. Joe movie was great.
It is, but it is also super weird. Like
The show was weird.
the show is weird. That one like took the cake with like the, another species of people that are ancient civilization. Like it's fun and the quality of the animation is amazing, but it's definitely bizarre. But like when they tried to dark and gritty G.I. Joe up, they went with like the X-Men route. Let's put them all in black jumpsuits, and it's not G.I. Joe. Like it takes away some of the fun. It takes away some of the toy properties, and not only does the movie need to make money, but it needs to sell toys. That's the ultimate goal with media for those things. So making all the guys look more generic doesn't help sell that toy. So I think they should have, even if they wanted them to all wear like that body armor, they could have all had their own color scheme or something over it, like shirts or pants that went over the body armor, and you just see the body armor to some degree underneath of it, just to make them more unique. The X-Men are way less interesting in black spandex than they are in their costumes.
Yeah.
Number 8.
Is this the bomb?
This is number...
I think this is the one we pepper sprayed ourselves with in the kitchen.
Could be. This is the notorious hot one. And now it's ice cold, so that'll be delightful. So anyway, this is the bomb evolution.
So this one is notoriously terrible. Like, just kicks your
Flavor
ass.
wise?
Yeah, flavor wise
Just
and
super
hot.
Well, that's great. Mine's really tiny, so. Oh, yeah, that has a serious amount of kick to it.
Oh my gosh. I did 2 bites out of all the other ones. Stopping at 1 bite on that one.
Well, I said I was cleaning my bones, and I'm just going to stick with it. I'm going to regret it later.
You are. Oh my gosh.
I actually kind of like the flavor of it, but it's a little on the too hot side.
My eyes are watering. Oh my gosh. What do you got for me?
What would your Jedi name be?
What would my Jedi name be?
Yeah, and would you be a Jedi or a Sith?
Oh, I'd definitely be a Jedi, I think. I don't want to be that angry all the time to be a Sith.
Do you have to be angry to be a Sith? That's just one of the aspects, right?
I guess you could be envious or greedy or I don't know. Anger. Well, anger
Just-
leads to hate.
I mean, it also, maybe just individualistic is.
That could be it. I'd be a Jedi. You gotta use like part of each one of your names. I'm sure there's like a generator online. Like
Wow, okay, that's very hot.
Jokev, Onus or something like that. I don't know. Combination of my names in out of order. Yeah, my gums hurt right now. Like my teeth hurt. This is probably definitely was what pepper sprayed us in the kitchen.
Could be. It feels like my tongue is bleeding. But it's kind of a good pain. Also,
A good pain.
kind of. Almost good.
Just don't touch your eyes, guys.
Yeah, okay, that's the one.
That's the serious one. Oh my gosh.
I didn't plan accordingly and have enough beverage.
Oh no.
So the last 2 will be an adventure.
We can have the editor fix it if you want. You can go get a drink and come back.
Fix it in post.
Yeah.
Oh man,
That allows us all to blow our nose off camera.
That's what your viewers want, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
see us all very uncomfortable. Oh boy.
Do you want to get a drink? You want to
No, let's just keep it rolling.
Fight through it.
One
All
continuous
right.
shot.
All right. Keep going. What do you got for me? Oh, we got. What's the next sauce? After the bomb.
Oh, you want to jump straight into the sauce, huh?
Well, I mean, we read the next sauce, right? Or do
This
you want
is
the question first?
This is Hellfire hot sauce. Hellfire hot sauce. Cranked. Extreme black garlic reaper sauce.
Awesome.
And there's an angry person on the label.
My
Let's
mouth
do
still
one
hurts.
more question
Okay,
first.
another question. Kind of stall a little bit. Trying to recover.
My brain stopped working. I don't even know what question you asked last.
You're on this one.
Oh, Jedi name.
Okay. What's one the 80s or 90s show you wish went longer?
An 80s or 90s show that I wish went longer. Well, I wish that G.I. Joe got a season after the movie. They planned to, and they just dropped it. The production costs were too high. I would have loved a Series 3 of G.I. Joe. From the 90s.
Mine is the Mask show. I wish.
Mask would have been good to
more
get another
Mask.
season. I would say something that was really good, like Batman the Animated Series or X-Men, but they kind of like evolved those shows and the quality went down towards the end, so like another season of X-Men wouldn't have really necessarily been worth it. We're kind of getting it now. Disney's going to do another season of 90s X-Men.
I wonder if they'll continue
Yeah, it's going to be a continuation.
adapting storylines from the comics. Or...
I assume so. They're getting a lot of the voice actors back. I mean, the people that are still alive anyway. Some people have to be recast. I'm trying to think. Like, I feel like the shows I watched in the '90s were like X-Men, Batman, Spider-Man. Like, I watched all those comic shows that are really influencing the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I can't think of too much else I watched, like Pokemon and stuff like that a little bit. But even that might have been the 2000s by then.
Did we ever figure out the name of that cartoon that I've talked to you about that I used to watch? That's like a guy walking around. I just remember like the intro. There was like a mouth harp they were playing, and it was kind of like He-Man, but it wasn't He-Man, and there was like a mouth harp.
I don't know. Might have been Thundar or the Barbarian, maybe. I'm not sure what the theme music that sounds like.
Or that show that I always try to remember that I think we found one time where they're like driving around in discs.
I think that Spiral Zone was the show that we found that we thought was it. It was like a
patchy skin.
yeah. It's like an imported show. The toys were larger. They had like cloth outfits on them. They're not as big as like the old GI Joes, but they're somewhere in between classic and the retro Joes.
Was that the one where it was like a bicycle, but there was like a circular bicycle that they were inside?
Yeah.
I vaguely remember
Somebody
that.
had like triangular tank treads on their little vehicle they stood on. Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, for some reason I had like a rubber snake.
Okay.
And for some reason that show made me want to like run around the house using it like a whip.
I had a He-Man sword that I ran around the house with, shoved down the back of my shirt all the time.
There was also a cartoon, and I know you'll know the name of it. It's where there was like three guys. I remember they all had mustaches. They were the big figures.
Oh, the Centurions. The stuff all snaps on them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that one. But I
a good one.
can't remember the name of it, obviously.
Those are very expensive toys now. They're so hard to get complete because they came with so many parts and pieces. Yeah. Power Extreme. That's what they would
How many
shout.
seasons of the show? It was only
There's
a
probably
couple,
only
right?
one or two. Yeah, a lot of those toy line things only would get one season because the toy line just wouldn't do well enough. I mean, G.I. Joe is so crazy that it went for almost a decade, or more than a decade. Most toy lines would come out, maybe get 2 waves, and maybe get 2 years of a cartoon. Ninja Turtles is another one of those unique ones. He-Man...
Really, because the toys were so good.
Yeah, He-Man lasted a long time, the toys, but the animation company that was doing it needed to switch over to do the She-Ra show, and so the He-Man got shortchanged because of switching production. They weren't big enough to do both shows at the same time.
Was Dino Riders a cartoon that ever aired? The only time I ever watched it was when I would buy a toy and I would get the VHS and I would watch that VHS a whole bunch. But I don't remember it ever airing.
I don't know for sure. I'm not sure if it was on the air or not, because I don't remember watching it regularly, but I do remember seeing the VHS, like the video, the cartoon.
I never had the toys. It came with a VHS.
Some of the big ones.
Some of the big ones came with a VHS. I had maybe 3 of the VHS.
Okay.
The first one I watched a ton, and then they weren't as good. Like the third one wasn't as good as the first one, maybe just because it was the first one I watched. But
sometimes they put a little bit bigger budget into that pilot because they're using that footage to like try and get a network to pick up the show, and they're showing it at Toy Fair to get people to like buy the toys. Sometimes there's more like production value in the first episode. Even like Ninja Turtles, the first 5 episodes, season 1 is really good animation. And then after that, when they went syndicated and they had to create more episodes, the seasons don't look quite as good. But all right, we ready for the next one?
I guess so.
You guys read the...
How are you feeling now?
My lips hurt, but
I settled a little bit.
I'm not dying as much.
This is still, we haven't done the Hellfire crank.
Hellfire, all right. You guys ready for this?
No.
Brian's honest. Chili cold wing. Love it.
This one has that pepper flavor that's like smoked pepper kind of flavor that I really don't care for in hot sauce.
Oh. I didn't feel anything from that one at first. It's getting worse.
Oh boy. As I'm still chewing it.
I must judge my napkins. Down to 1. Unless we only have 1 wing to go left. Oh. Clutch. So years ago, before Pegwarmers, before any kind of regular YouTube uploads, I did a stop motion show with a mutual friend of ours, Derek, called Action Figure Adventures, and Brian voiced the G.I. Joe Clutch in that. Greg, were you a voice in that?
It was Snake Eyes.
You were Snake Eyes?
It was like the Irish Snake Eyes.
Gotcha.
Derek didn't like it.
Were you C-3PO?
I was also C-3PO.
I thought you had a small role in one of them. Yeah, it was like a goofy Toy Story in a dorm room was the kind of the scenario, and every episode they tried to escape. And Clutch was a pretty main, like, kind of reoccurring character. He wasn't like on screen all the time, but he had like a subplot that went through the whole series. Yeah, you just kind of appear. You make small appearances in everything I do off and on throughout.
Yeah, I remember fixing the animal, right?
Yeah, the 80s toy, the animal with the tiger claws that come out of the wheels. That was Clutch's, like, baby throughout the whole show. He was trying to get the animal to, like, strive.
So they could escape, right?
Right, that was the escape route. Which, it's the, spoilers, it's the escape route that actually works, you know, not that you're going to go find it.
Yeah, I saved the day.
Yeah, Brian saved the day. Got everybody out of the dorm room.
What are your biggest toy regrets? Something you regret buying and something you regret passing up?
My biggest toy regrets. In some ways, I regret selling all my stuff as a kid. I can't regret it too much, though, because it gave me the pocket money to buy other stuff that I really want. So I don't super regret that, but, you know, and sometimes I go, it'd be nice to still have it. So I think my biggest regret now for dollars and cents wise is it's getting hot again.
Oh, yeah, it lingered. But
it came back around for me.
Yeah.
When I was collecting the G.I. Joe 3 3/4 inch figures, I was trying to get one of every figure. I wasn't worried about paint variants. So at the time, I was just getting one of every figure, and I worked quite a bit at it during college. And then, like, right after college, I got the last few figures I needed. And at the time, there's a mail-away figure called the Steel Brigade. And it was a guy you got to, like, write your own file card for. And towards the end of the line, that they changed his color scheme, which back then, in the early 2000s, the collecting community considered that a paint variant. So I was like, I'm not collecting variants. So I didn't worry about it. And now the collecting community has I can't talk because it's so hot.
Yeah.
The collecting community has decided that that's a different release because it had its own advertisement. It looks different. It had a different file card, so it's not just like, oh, they changed the color.
Did you send them what you wanted on the file card, and
it was like multiple choice, and then it printed it. It was like a computer printout. It wasn't like a little file card, but it would put your code name, and you could pick which weapons you were good at, and the personality traits like loner or like team leader kind of stuff. So I never got Goldhead Steel Brigade while they were cheap. I mean, they were never super cheap, and they're super hard to find. But when I probably could have gotten one for $50, I didn't worry about it because it was a paint variant. Now it's considered a unique release. It's the figure that keeps me from having a full set based on the way collectors consider the line now, and they're outrageously expensive. Yeah. So
what's outrageous?
Like $700 without the accessories, probably. Yeah. So
yeah, I think everybody who collects anything or collected things when they were younger has that regret of selling stuff because you wanted the money or whatever, and then later on you wish you hadn't sold it.
It's a very common regret. Like I said, because I was putting the money into my G.I. Joe and Star Wars collection, I can't be really mad at myself, but it would be cool to be able to say, like, this is my childhood He-Man, and this is my Lion-O from when I was a kid. And then biggest regret and biggest...
Yeah, the thing that you wish you had got and something that you wish you hadn't gotten.
Okay, so the thing that I bought that I wish I hadn't wasted my money on, probably. I try to think about stuff before I buy it. So there's not a lot of buyer's regret in my life. But I guess I'll go with this. I bought the Matty Collector Watchmen figures. They're really nice looking figures. They're based on the Watchmen show. Or not the Watchmen show, the Watchmen comic. They came in really cool packaging. And at the time that I got them, I just didn't really have a great place to display them. And I put them in a box and put them away.
It just hit me again.
It came back, yeah. Whew. You all right?
Yeah.
So I bought them. I put them in a box. And I never enjoyed them. Like, they just sat in a box, and then recently when I was, like, getting ready to move, I was like, I'm just going to sell these because I never did anything with them. So I regret... I mean, I probably got my money's back out of them because stuff like that, collector's toys kind of retain their value, but it just was sort of a waste because I didn't even enjoy them. Like, there are things that I buy and then I decide to get rid of later, but at least I, like, enjoyed them, I interacted with them or looked at them.
Were they well done?
They're very well done. They're not super posable. They have articulation, but just some of their outfits just don't lend themselves that well to like.
What scale were they?
They're like 6-inch figures. They were cool looking. I probably would have kept them had I kept them out of the box. I'm sure there's some other things like that I've bought and then just never.
Was it just the main team, or
Yeah, it was like.
did they have the owl vehicle?
No, it was just the main guys. So it was like Night Owl, Silk Spectre, Comedian, Rorschach, Ozymandias, and Dr. Manhattan, I think, was the full wave. They were well done, like I said, but I just didn't. I never took advantage of owning them. So,
Yeah.
and that's
I remember the Dr. Manhattan one.
Yeah.
Like I remember seeing the big blue
guy.
character.
Was he
I
naked?
don't remember being articulated.
He had the little black,
articulated at all, other than like shoulders and hips, maybe. I don't remember
I
being
think he
at
has
all
elbows and
articulated.
stuff. Yeah, they're like pretty standard collector articulation. But yeah, he had the little black Speedo thing on.
Is there one that you regret, Ryan,
Something I regret buying?
or regret not buying? Either way.
Well, I mean, I collect magic cards, so yeah, I regret not buying the old ones when they were a lot cheaper than they are now.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Especially since there was that comic book store that I was buying dual lands from. I was like 16, and they were like $5 a piece. That's why I have the dual lands that I still have. And I had the money to buy more. It was like they were only $5, and they had them, and I just didn't realize how much they would go up. Like obviously, no one knows how much it's going to go up in value, but I didn't realize how beneficial they were while playing.
I sold all my Magic cards to buy Warhammer stuff, and Magic cards have way surpassed Warhammer stuff in value.
Yeah.
I had fun with the Warhammer stuff, but it investment wise, dollar wise, I should have just hung on to the Magic cards.
Well, they lose value once you've painted them, right? Like
to
I
some
feel like
degree, yeah. I
new
some
in
people-
box
some
unpainted
people will
has more
strip
value.
them down.
Yeah, they seem like they would be very easy to strip.
Depends on what kind of paint you've used. Like for my early army, I used the Testers model kit paint. That stuff is so hard to get off, especially off the plastic parts.
Yeah.
Like the metal ones, you can just throw them in paint thinner. But if like the Space Marines had like the plastic arms, you'll dissolve the arms in paint thinner. So yeah, I could strip them and sell them, but the problem is then there's no like plastic pieces with them. But yes, there are definitely Warhammer models that have gone up in value, and there's a very active collector market, including myself. I have gone through spurts where I bought a whole bunch of old models, and not even stuff from the armies I collect. I actually was always buying. I bought a lot of models that I always thought were really cool that you guys had that I wanted to paint. Like I have a Carnifex now. I have the Eldar Avatar. Like the cool centerpiece models that I was always like, I would love to paint that. I own them now. In like pewter, the old
It's really
versions.
the metal ones that have retained their value.
Yes,
too,
the
right?
plastic ones don't really retain their value that much. And there was even like a period of time where they were doing a lot of stuff out of resin, and the casts themselves suck. The resin was like the transition from metal to the current plastics, and the resin ones had a lot of air bubbles in them and just like misformed.
Yeah, I remember back when we were playing, before 3D printing was really a thing, we thought about trying to like cast our own copies of them.
Yeah, because we wanted to just be able to like make a custom figure and be able to like make it more solid. Because you cut up a bunch of stuff, and then that was like always like a weak point to break. There were certain figures that were hard to get because like we played during 2nd edition, and the books would show you all these models that were like they were starting to get discontinued because they were shifting towards 3rd edition. And we'd want those models, or we would get our hands on like one, and you wanted to try and get a whole squad. And it was like, oh, if I could just make a copy of this guy, it'd be great.
Yeah, or the like army builder
Yes.
ones that were
You just need
way
dozens
too
of-
expensive for how many you get and how
Right.
many you need.
Yeah. That was one good thing with plastic models is that they were a little cheaper. Like if you needed metal army builders, it was outrageous.
Yeah, I think the one they came like 6 in a box, and you couldn't even play with less than 12.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that probably the Termagants for your army? Yeah. No, the Space Marines were kind of the same way. You get boxes of 5 plastic ones, and you needed 10 for a squad, really. And plus, you wanted a heavy weapon, and you wanted a sergeant, you wanted a special weapon. None of that stuff came in the plastic box. So I would end up buying like a blister that had a sergeant, a blister that had a heavy weapon, a blister that would come with 2 special weapons, and then like 2 of those boxes, and sort of try to make 2 squads out of it. But it's a lot of money, and so weird. Like in high school, it would take forever to get all those things, which is why I sold my Magic cards to buy Warhammer stuff. But
So should we do the
last dab?
the last dab, the traditional last dab?
we got to add some more.
All right. So this is the Apollo, the last dab.
Will we survive? Tomorrow's going to be uncomfortable.
I'm uncomfortable already.
And while we do this, Kev, what G.I. Joe sub-teams would you like to have had specific bats?
What sub-teams would I like to have had specific bats? Well, in the modern line, they're doing Python Patrol bats, which would have made sense back in the day, for sure. There's some custom people that have done Dreadnought bats. Oh, we got to do his wing here. I put a lot on. Oh, boy. Yep. That's spicy.
Ooh.
Well, what sub teams did have specific bats?
None of them really did. The bat got issued once in '85, and then there was like a new version in like '91 maybe, and then in the 2000s they repainted the '90s bat in the '85 colors, as well as made a new like clear red one that was called an Inferno bat. In the modern collector line that's out now, Classifieds, they made a bat. They've released it as Python Patrol, which is a sub team that had lots of Cobra Trooper repaints. Like would have made sense to put it in there.
Oh, I smeared that one all over my face.
Oh my gosh, my eyes are watering so bad. They're gonna do a Crimson bat for Classifieds because there was a convention exclusive Crimson Viper team. My eyes are watering. I got a tear running down my cheek. There's some custom ones for the Dreadnoughts. I'm not super wild about those ones, only because I feel like the Dreadnoughts wouldn't have bats, or if they got them from Cobra, they would just be Cobra ones. Like, I don't think Cobra would take the time to repaint them, especially for the Dreadnoughts.
Oh, the Dreadnoughts could have a really cool, like, Mad Max type cobbled
like
together bat.
Junkyard bats kind of thing. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, that's brutal. There's way more Joe sub-teams than there are Cobra sub-teams, though, too. So there's a little less option on Cobra.
Did the Joes have a equivalent, like,
no
cyborg,
robot trooper now?
Oh my
gosh.
I think that one is, despite being number 10, I think it is hotter than the bomb in some ways.
It's brutal. I'm dying over here.
Well, we added extra to it.
That's
True.
Whew.
Yeah, I can't even breathe.
Are we out of questions?
No, there's still more questions.
Oh my gosh. All right. Lay another one on me. I'm dying.
What official Kit Bash Joe vehicles, like Slaughter's Marauders, would you like to have seen? What's a Kit Bash?
So, oh my god. I don't want to rub my eyes with my fingers. Model kits. People that build model kits will sometimes take parts from other kits to make a better kit, or make something totally new. So that's where the term kit bashing comes from. And with Slaughter's Marauders, Hasbro took like the base of a bunch of different vehicles, a bunch of different tanks, and added new turrets to them to make them look like new tanks. So they got a new toy for like 50% of the mold effort. I mean, I feel like the Triple T, which was Sergeant Slaughter's tank, didn't get made in Slaughter's Marauders. It would have been hard to like add something to it because it doesn't really have a tank turret like a traditional tank. But that one felt left out. I'm dying. My gosh, so hot. Other tanks that were in G.I. Joe, they didn't use the Mobat, which is like the first tank from G.I. Joe. That didn't get a reissue, so maybe that would have been a good idea. They reused the Wolverine, they reused the Mauler, they reused the Armadillo. I'm trying to think of what other like Joe tanks there were. They might have used all of them but the Mobat that were out at that time. I mean, they could have done something with the Hiss tank because a lot of those sub teams took stuff from Switch teams. But I feel like the Hiss tank is so classic Cobra, it would have been really weird as a Joe vehicle. Mm-hmm. But maybe with a very different turret, it could have been kind of interesting.
I have bits of chicken stuck in my teeth that
Yes.
I'm pretty sure are just lingering the spice.
That is what's happening to me right now. As I'm
horrible.
talking, my tongue is like,
It's like, oh, there's a little bit, and it's still spicy.
yeah.
All right, we have one more question for you.
All right.
What are your
Last one.
thoughts on vehicles that are so big they are basically play sets?
Okay, so let me look at this from a G.I. Joe perspective. You have the aircraft carrier, which cannot move on its own. It has no wheels. It does not float. So that's a playset. But the mobile command center, the tan thing that looks like the sandcrawler, that has wheels. So it's a playset that rolls.
What about the Terradrome?
Terradrome doesn't have any wheels, so that's a true playset.
I thought it had wheels. They just don't
No,
work.
doesn't roll.
Well, I know in the show it didn't roll, but I thought the...
No, toy has nothing on the bottom. It doesn't even have a Lazy Susan, which I think it should have had. Should have been built on a Lazy Susan so you could, like, spin the guns around.
Yeah, I thought I remembered it having like tracks or something on the toy.
That's what I was talking about,
Mobile
yeah.
Command Center has tracks. And then the Defiant, the space shuttle crawler, has wheels. The Defiant is so cool and so under-engineered. It is massive. It is an impressive toy. But like that, the supports underneath of that vehicle and its wheel system just break all the time. So I'm not a huge fan of giant vehicles as playsets. I think the General was probably one of the ones they did the best. That was a 90s vehicle. It would have been after really when you and I were collecting hardcore or playing with G.I. Joes. But that has massive wheels and can roll pretty well. I think that might be the best execution of a headquartery vehicle. It looks a little bit more vehicle-like than, say, the Mobile Command Center. The Mobile Command Center...
Yeah, I mean, do you think when kids played with the Mobile Command Center, they were actually
I never pushed
moving
it.
it around?
I never pushed it. Which makes it, like, what was the point of making it a mobile vehicle then? It could have just been a base, a playset. And I think that's what really comes down to a lot of those things is they're big now as an adult. So imagine being a kid how enormous they were. They're like too heavy to carry. They're too heavy to push. So I don't really need them to roll. There's a lot of people that think the flag should have floated. And there's some people that have made it float by building like styrofoam surfboards underneath of it to take pictures of it in a pool and things like that. And it's cool, but it's 7 foot long. Like it's bad enough. It's hard enough to find a bedroom to keep it in, let alone like carry it through your house and put it in your swimming pool.
Imagine how much more value it would be if half of them had been put in creeks or swimming pools and just destroyed.
Yeah. Chlorine ate them away.
Yeah.
They got faded because people left them outside all the time.
Yeah. So are you going to call this? I'm melting and I need some more beverage.
All right, so we're all dying here. Thanks you guys for being on the show. Make sure to like, subscribe, join the Patreon if you want to support the channel, and thanks for hanging on the pegs with us.
Right, thanks.
We are waiting for the Dark Souls of fighting games. Let us have it. We're ready.
Soul Edge has nothing on a lightsaber. Like, I'm sorry.
James Earl Jones comes back.
No!
Oh no! Oh!
I don't think kids trade games anymore. I need that sense of accomplishment, and it wasn't there. And I think that was a major flaw.
The way they engineer these is just phenomenal.
As much as you're into like the comics, I was very into the toys, so I was on like the message board all the time.